Stoddard. There are nearly 200 public libraries in Vermont, but there is only one able library. The able library is part of the Vermont Department of Libraries in Barre. However, books and services from the able library are accessible all throughout the state. To learn more, I'm joined with Karen Gravlin. Karen is the director of the able library and the library consultant for inclusive services with the Department of Libraries. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So first of all, what is the able library and how is it different from a regular library that we know?
Sure, so the able library is Vermont's library for the blind and print disabled. So we are part of the Vermont Department of Libraries, as you mentioned, which is a department within state government that works to support libraries around the state. And we're a little bit different from public libraries in that we serve primarily people with print disabilities, and we're also a statewide service, so we serve the entire state of Vermont. So any Vermont resident who qualifies can use our library service. And we're pretty centrally located. We're in Barre, so we share a building with the Vermont History Center.
Right, sure.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And it's actually been a great location for us since we serve the entire state, so it's a nice central location.
Absolutely. So I doubt that Vermont is the only state that has this service. How is this done nationally?
You're right, so we're not the only state that has this service. As I mentioned, we're part of the Vermont Department of Libraries, but we're also part of the National Library Service. We're a network library for the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled. And that's a national program through the Library of Congress. So the National Library Service was created through congressional legislation, and they're charged with providing library services to people with print disabilities throughout the country. So we exist to support them in meeting that requirement, and we actually get a lot of our library materials through them. So that being said, every state in the country has their own equivalent library that serves their residents. So if a Vermont resident is our patron and moves to another state, we could send that state's library their information, and they could continue to get the same service that they do here in Vermont, and vice versa. And it's even, the National Library Service even serves US citizens living abroad.
Awesome. So just a little bit more about what an inclusive library is. You talk about print disabilities, but who uses the library? Who are your patrons?
So when we talk about inclusive library services, what we are trying to accomplish is making sure that everyone, no matter what disability they have, that they are able to use a public library. So that's kind of why we exist.
Right.
And so our library is meant to serve people with print disabilities, and those disabilities fall into 4 different categories. So the first category is blindness. So if someone's legally blind, they can be an able library patron, which is pretty straightforward. But the next category is other visual disabilities. So someone may not be blind, but they might still struggle to read regular print. And so they could be an able library patron as well. The third category is physical disabilities that prevent someone from being able to read standard print. And the way that I usually explain that to people is that if you have a condition that makes it difficult for you to hold a book or turn its pages, that you could use our library service. And that could be anything from, arthritis to a stroke, Parkinson's. There are lots of different reasons why someone might struggle to physically handle books. And then finally, the last category is reading disabilities, and that can be that's sort of an umbrella term that covers any disability that makes reading difficult. So think about things like dyslexia.
Sure.
And then the qualifying conditions can be temporary or permanent. So you might be in a car accident and be unable to use regular print books for a while. And in that case, you could use the library until you've regained enough mobility to be able to hold a book again. On the other hand, you might have a lifelong condition.
So let's talk about some of the things that the patrons can check out. Our director is showing us some of them. This is a large print book.
Sure. So we have several collections that people can check out. We did see an image of one of our digital players. Our most popular collection, there it is, yes. Our most popular collection are audiobooks on digital cartridges.
Sure.
So we can fit about 8 audiobooks onto one cartridge that we send out to patrons, and patrons get to keep this digital player that they can use to listen to these books.
Awesome.
And we saw the large print books.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so they're large print books, and then
Sure.
this is a high contrast. This is more that interesting disability where you need a special kind of book.
Right, exactly. So we have an accessible youth collection, so schools, families, and kids can use that collection, and that includes those high contrast books that are pretty self-explanatory. So they just have high contrast images that are easier for people with visual disabilities to be able to see. That collection also has Wonder Books, which are picture books that have an audio player attached to the book so that a reader can listen to the book and follow along with the print. And those are great for kids with certain reading disabilities, but they're also good for parents and grandparents who have print disabilities, who can then borrow these books and listen to them with their children or grandchildren.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's wonderful that the technology is helping in so many different ways.
Yes.
And what we understand about disabilities and reading disabilities in particular are helping us make things that are making life better for people. So, so if you're a patron, how do you choose the books that you might want?
So that's a little tricky because patrons don't usually get to visit our library and browse our collection. So that's another reason, that's another way that we're different from public libraries. So when you sign up for service with us, we actually build a profile of your reading preferences. So you tell us what authors or genres you like and what you don't like, and then we build a profile for you in our system. And it's actually our software that looks at your profile and then chooses books for you based on that information. So then we run a report and upload the books onto those cartridges and send them out to you.
Wow. So, so technology again is helpful. So you say you send them out to them. So they're literally sent out to their library or directly to them?
Directly to them. So we use a program through the U.S. Postal Service. It's called Free Matter for the Blind and Handicapped. And that lets us actually send our books to patrons directly in the mail for free. And it lets patrons return their books to us for free as well. And that's possible because Congress reimburses the Postal Service every year through congressional appropriations. So we're really lucky. Those are great partners for us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what if somebody has their own smartphone or tablet and they want to listen to books on their own device?
Sure, so you can certainly use your own smartphone or tablet to listen to our books. We have an app through the National Library Service. It's called BARD, and you can get it wherever it is that you get your apps from. You can download it, and then you can start downloading audiobooks and Braille books directly to your personal device. And the nice thing about that is that there's no waiting in the mail for a book, and then you can keep the book for as long as you'd like.
Wow. You talk about Braille books,
Yes.
so that's pretty interesting. How does that work?
So e-Braille is actually a really cool technology that not a lot of people know about, and so patrons can download e-Braille books in the same way that someone downloads regular e-books. They're kind of like, and they read them on refreshable Braille displays, and that's what that picture is that we're seeing right now. And they're a little bit like Kindles for Braille readers.
Wow, that's just fantastic. So your website highlights programs that you also offer. So tell us a few examples of those.
Sure. So we do offer regular programs for patrons. One of those is our book club, which meets every other month. We meet online with an option for patrons to call in, so that even if they're far away from Barrie, they can still participate. And that's been a great way for our patrons to connect with each other and talk about books.
Great.
We also co-host the Memorable Times Cafe with the Central Vermont Council on Aging, and that's a dementia-friendly program that provides some relaxed social time for people living with mild to moderate dementia and their care partners.
Terrific. And it sounds like the first one are there people live in Barrie, or is it all on Zoom?
It's all on Zoom these days,
well,
yes.
Yeah, but that's great. It's a great community that we're able to create at home. And you also have a number of partner organizations that you work with. What are those services and how does that work?
Sure. We have a lot of partner organizations, and I mentioned one of them earlier, the U.S. Postal Service. Again, without them, we wouldn't be able to get our books out to our patrons. And I also mentioned the Central Vermont Council on Aging. We partner with them to run programs, and they also refer clients to us all the time. The Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, as well as the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired, are both great organizations that serve people with visual disabilities, and we work really closely with them, and they also refer clients to us. And then finally, public and school libraries. Yes, they refer us, they refer their patrons and students to us all the time, so we're really lucky to have that support in the state.
Great, and they're lucky to have you. So what else do you wish everybody knew about Able Libraries?
Other than the fact that we exist and that our service is free, I think that what I most want people to know is that blindness is just one condition that can qualify someone to use the library. I think that a lot of times people hear library for the blind or they hear disabled and they stop listening because they right, exactly. They automatically think that's not for me, and that's just really not the case. The reality is that we serve a really wide range of people who can't read regular print for a whole host of different reasons, and that even if you're not sure if you qualify for the service, please reach out to us because we can help you figure that out. And even if we're not the right service for you, we can probably refer you to different resources.
Right, and that's from kids all the way up to our elders. So it's just
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Yes.
So to make sure we get your information out, how can viewers find out more about Able Library?
Yeah, so viewers can find out more about the library as well as download an application on our website. That's able.vermont.gov, or they can give us a call at our toll-free number. That's 800-479-1711.
Okay, now Karen, I know that you encourage people to call up, but about how many people are you serving at this time in Vermont?
So right now we serve around 1,100 people across the state, and we do our best to try to reach as many people as possible, but it can be difficult, especially when people are in such rural areas that sometimes it's hard to get out to them and sort of spread that word. So again, that's another reason that we rely on our partner organizations so much.
Right, and here, so to any caregiver that's out there, anyone that's starting to have trouble reading, you would be willing to talk them through about the services that you have and how they might get involved.
Absolutely, yes. And we have a range of services, so everything from large print all the way to those audiobooks. We try to have something for everyone.
Great. And so I'm a little interested in the high contrast. How would someone know that that's going to be helpful to them?
Well, when we talk about high contrast books, they're actually very useful for kids with visual disabilities. A lot of kids, the reason that they have visual disabilities is through a condition called cortical visual impairment. And that condition makes it so that those high contrast images are much easier for their brains to process. And so that's why we provide those books.
So interesting. Karen, thank you so much for all that you do with the Able Library and for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you once again for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.